choyo sampo pagyo trashi pa tuche tempe trinle yarngoda belge trolor zambe separace pande alame shabla solvade Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Shasane Karma Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munish Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munishasane Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dhagi Chetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Sikso So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tsechi Nyingne Solwa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Vesu Lekshune Yila Sambe Dede Malupa Gemel Hunge Drupra Chingelo Soni Sodan Dikdun Shapetse Dunge Namge Yenso Lekshune Lapchen Soni Yonso Zopa Dan Chera Nyetun Chamra Chingelo Chancho Parge Nyinsen Tukun Tu Nyu Peme Siudru Lekshune Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshishi Tungen Dela Drubra Chingelo Dagi Lona Chola Chokpa Dan Chemin Samjurngemba Shiwa Dan Chodan Tumbe Dede Malupa Bemel Hunge Drubra Chingelo Dorna Tingne Tsera Tamche Dan Techi Pardu Nekab Tamche Tu Rese Kyamne Lama Kele Me Tukche Chingi Dala Sikso Sol Gongyab Drewe Nyamda Dachala Chetsun Lame Tuche Rab Gongne Kudan Sunge Nawa Dralme Tu NgalSo Nyongwe Kesan Toprasho Kewa Kundu Yanda Lama Dan Rame Chikip Sadan Lamge Yunde Rabzone Dorje Change Kopa Nyurtob Sho Pakyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Pakyuke Tukdan Dagi Yi Tenyerme Chiktu Chingi Lo Makyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Makyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Makyuke Tukdan Dagi Yi Tenyerme Chiktu Chingi Lo Om Muni Maha chodan soge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sange drupar sho sange chodan soge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sange drupar sho sange chodan soge chonam la jancho pardo dani kyapsu dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sange drupar sho.
In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Namo yal haye ke da ludan chen ke rubunda da mi ke nam da Drowa kuinge ranama che tsampa tamche ke to dagi che ten. Buongiorno.
Good morning.
Nei primi anni in cui
During the first years, while I was studying in a more deep way the Buddhist teachings, when I was in Sera in India, there were a few moments of some teachings, some things, some concepts that I remember that in the moment that I learned them, there was like a particular joy. It's like as if the mind was opening, seeing things differently. And one of these moments for me it was when in a text written by Penchen Sampotashi, we actually have this text published. It's a red uh, and yellow books, and in this one, the red book, the first volume, there is the part where there are the explanations of the Buddhist view compared with the various schools, and in this part there there are the various aspects relating to what is mind, what is time, what is the part of what happens after death. There are various aspects of how is it seen by the various Buddhist schools. And one of the arguments that impressed me strongly at the time was the definition of past, present, and future, and the discussion around this. Some schools consider the past to be non-existent, that the future doesn't exist, and that there is only a constant present. Other schools think about the past as existent and permanent, that you can't change it, and that the future doesn't exist. Other schools consider the past to be existent and impermanent, and that the future exists and that it's also impermanent, and that of course also the present exists. The definition that remained with me the most is that the past are the causes that have already had conditions and consequently also results, like seeds that have already grown and gave fruits. The present are the causes that are having conditions, so that are giving results, and the future are the causes that still haven't had conditions and so consequently haven't had any results yet. And in the midst of all of this, we can spend, yes, a long time discussing philosophically a vision or another, but that's not the point of today. But in the midst of all of this, there are us and the way with which we live our lives. And it's interesting to see that when there are various philosophical schools, often they give as if there were shades of the same reality. When we look towards the past, we could say the past you can change it. Can you go back and amount what happened or change it? No. So from this point of view, the past is permanent, you can't change it. But on the other hand, when we go and look, the reality is not an objective reality. And when we are today here, what exists, what does exist for us of the past now? What is the past for us now? Memories, but not only that. There are also predispositions. For example, if yesterday I ate too much or drank too much and today I'm a bit like this, now in the present, the present, how I live it, is a consequence of that past. So we bring with ourselves some marks, some signs, some inertia of what happened. So today in the present, that it still exists. What happened has already happened, but now in the present I still have both the positive aspects and also the wounds and so on of the past. There is an inertia that comes from the past inevitably, that conditions me strongly. The present doesn't exist independently from the past. And we are not able in any way to live the present independently by our past. So we have seen that the past, I can't go back and change that thing that happened, and how beautiful if I had said that thing when I didn't say it, or if this had happened when it didn't happen, and that's, you can't change it. This is one characteristic. Another characteristic is that the past, on its turn today, is present with us strongly through the inertia, the force of the actions that happened. And we are strongly conditioned by everything that has already happened, that we have already experienced until an instant ago. And then there is a third aspect. When we look towards both the present and the future, we do it through our own gaze towards the past. So we judge the present and we imagine the future through our experience of the past. So if I go to a place and I feel well, then I feel like I want to come back to that place because I believe that maybe if I go back there, then I will feel good. Maybe it will not be so. And so on the other hand, maybe I meet a person and I don't feel good with that person, then I don't want to meet that person again, and I have anxiety. I don't want to meet that person again. Maybe it will be beautiful. You don't know. We imagine the future and we judge the present through our own experience of the past. And this is connected with the fact that the past now today with us is mostly our memory. And the memory in the present is also something that is impermanent, that changes, that can be transformed. So from this point of view, the past changes because my way of seeing what happened, my way of experiencing what I have today as a point of reference of what happened changes. And it's from this that there is like a kind of particular inspiration hint is of the past as being impermanent. And there are many examples that we can give, but when we live something, we remain with a kind of clear idea of what happened. And we live that situation as if it existed in an autonomous and objective way. When we are able to revisit the same thing that happened through a different perspective, reality changes. Our emotional aspects change, so also how I project the future. I make the example that I've always done. I'm walking on the street, someone pushes me, I fall and I break my arm. Then I end up in the hospital. What happened? Someone hurt me or did me good? No, someone hurt me. I didn't even see who he was. Wow, look, what an unsafe word. This city is dangerous. I don't want to go back then anymore. I have to walk with bodyguards. How can I do it? It's dangerous to be here, and so on. I can't get out of my house alone, and so on. Other than the fact that the person that pushed me does it become an object of aversion or attraction or gratitude? No, an object of aversion. And so as we are there, the police comes, shows us the image from the security cameras around, and they say, look, you've been really lucky. Look, there was like a working site close by, and something fell from that place, from the high thing, and someone realized that it was falling on you and pushed you and saved your life. And you didn't realize because you fell and you didn't see it, but really where you were, that really huge piece of iron fell, and we see the image of what happened, and we say, wow, that person put his own life at risk to save me. And the arm still hurts, they've always pushed me. The past didn't change from the point of view of what happened in that moment, but my perception changed and also emotionally changed. Instead of having aversion, I have gratitude. Maybe I can become someone that can do a lot of things in favor of more safety in the construction sites. But I feel that, okay, yeah, in this city I have to be careful with the construction sites, but people are really good. I look towards the future with a sense of trust because I can trust people because they're putting their lives at risk for me. Because we have the tendency also to generalize things. Like, okay, one person has pushed me. Look, the city is dangerous and people are bad and so on. And so when our perception of what happened changes, what happened also changes. And so our emotional response to what happened also changes. And by changing that emotional response in that moment, also our way of seeing the present and projecting the future changes. And so we have seen that the past is partly impermanent, partly there is an inertia of the past that also continues with us today, pushing us and conditions us. In partly the past is impermanent because like since we change our way of perceiving what happened also changes, and so our emotional response and so on changes with that, and so also the way we project the present and the future changes. There was also another aspect that now it's I can't get it. Then there is another fundamental point of the past that is related with the future. That is, we in the present moment have a really hard time by living the present without staying there to revisit the past and projecting the future. Actually, even from a point of view of neuroscience, it is explained that one of the main functions of our brain, there is one function that is the regulation of the energy, so to give energy, sending energy in one place or another. Then there is a fundamental function that is the one of predicting the future. Constantly we are predicting. So even we say that what we feel, what we see, there is always a very small prediction of the future. That is, what happens as one is speaking. I don't know if it has ever occurred to you that one doesn't end the sentence and we understand the whole sentence. Or that you're saying something and then at a certain point you put there a word that doesn't have to do anything with that. Why? Because as we are listening, then we are already predicting what will happen. And as we are looking, as we are seeing, there have been some strange studies on this. Like, okay, partly there is like the light that comes, but partly there is also the prediction of what we will we believe we will see. There was a simple exercise where you have like 2 points of light. One was red and the other blue, and they were lighting one and the other with a certain frequency. And then one is really in front of the two lights that turn on and off alternatively. And then at a certain point, one starts to see a light going on their side. And so you see the movement of the light going. But other than this aspect that is curious, it's more like a sensorial aspect, we are constantly imagining what will happen. I will go there, we'll do that, I have to do this at this time, then tomorrow will be like that, then the day after I will do that, and when I will be there, I will see this person, I will do that thing. We have our own projection and consequently our own idealized image of what should happen. On one hand, it's necessary because it's really that projection in the after that allows us to take a direction or another direction. Yesterday, last evening, I projected myself saying, okay, I have to go in the Gompa to give the teachings of the morning. And as a consequence of that, then I put the alarm, I woke up, and so on. I made various choices that were conditioned by that projection. I imagined a certain future, and consequently I did some things, and this is necessary. So what happens is that not always when that future becomes a present, it matches with what actually was projected. Sometimes we also project things for which we know that there aren't any conditions, but we project them anyway. Sometimes we project something really far away, and as you get closer, then you actually see that there aren't the possibilities, and still we don't accept it. And so, when the future becomes the present and doesn't match with our expectations, with the projection that we have placed, it becomes a past that has gone wrong. Becomes something that didn't happen in the way that it was supposed to happen. And this is another thing that remains. So our past, just as our present and future, is strongly conditioned by our own expectations, and so by our projections. And so whether I lived well or not, whether I lost time or not, if things went well or not, is mostly based on a point of reference. The judgment that we can give in a majority of cases is simply based on the comparison with something else. We need to have a point of reference. Okay, went well or went badly? Depends. I expected something really bad and it went quite bad, so yeah, not so bad actually. I expected something that really went in a wonderful way and then it went quite badly, so it's a tragedy. And so what happens is that our projection, in translating it, our expectations have a huge power of conditioning our life. Because what happens is that we, in each moment, give an interpretation to what we live. And great part of this interpretation is also based on comparisons. So if what I have is a lot or little, whether it's beautiful or ugly, whether it's long or short, a lot of time, short time, very often this is based on a comparison. And one of the points of comparison are our own projections, our own expectations. So partly we spend our life dreaming, waiting for things to happen. Since when we were kids, small children, we create projections about the job, the family, the house, this and that. We have an enormous quantity of projections. And then as life passes, some of them become true, others don't. And the stronger is the attachment that we have to these projections as something that should happen. The stronger becomes the suffering that we have when those don't become true. It's simple. It's not that you need a philosophical mastery. But what happens is that this is really present in our lives, in many aspects, and one can ask himself or herself, but how can I do then to not be attached to my own projection, and at the same time to have a direction to follow? Because inevitably we need a direction, and it's right to have it. Also, Buddhism is really based on that. May I become a Buddha? We are projecting ourselves in the future. The generation of the motivation is a projection of the future. Yesterday we also talked about the generation of the motivation. I wake up in the morning, me, today I want to be more present, I want to do this and that, and I put some goals, propositions in front of me. I'm projecting myself in the future, and that is important because that projection of the future gives the direction to our actions. And as we said yesterday, even when we project ourselves in the future, in an unconscious way, our mind tries to find ways to then sustain that narrative and to make it so that that version of the future becomes reality. And this is something that is explained even in the field of neuroscience. There is a part of the brain that has that function. There is the function of sorting what comes to us, the information that we receive, and saying, okay, this I need it, this I don't. And one of the main points, the starting points of the input that is given to the brain, to ourselves, to say, okay, this I need it, this I don't need it, is our own projection of the future, our own wishes. So I want this, then it becomes important, and try to make it so that I try to see that I'm able to see things related to that. So it's important to project ourselves in the future. Yes, on the other hand, is one of the biggest tricks of our lives, which is not the projection of the future itself, but the attachment to that projection as a certainty, as something that must happen. It's completely fine to have an idealized image of what I want to be, of what I want to do, but we shouldn't impose on ourselves the pretense of that should happen. And some goals are placed without limits of time and form. I want to reach enlightenment. When, how, that is all to be seen. When that will be, it will be. I'm walking in that direction. If I sit there, I look now, I start to practice Buddhism, I give myself 3 years of time. I've took 1 year sabbatic year, I have 1 year of time to reach enlightenment. I really wish you with all my heart, but it's hard. Once it happened, there was an English girl. We are talking about the 60s or 70s. She meets Buddhism. She was a doctor living in London. She had a good context, a good job, and all of that. And then at a certain point, she meets Buddhism. She connects strongly, and she sets this goal: I must reach enlightenment. Then at this point, she quits her job. She sells the house. She gives everything away. She goes to live in India. She becomes a monk, and she goes to live in a hut in the middle of the mountains, and she goes there to do a long retreat because I must reach enlightenment. She does everything for that. She sets a program for herself. She does everything that theoretically she has to do. 3 years pass, 4 years. Then at a certain point, years pass. Don't remember how many. There weren't few, but also not too many. Like some years pass, and then she's like, "Here, me, Bindu, enlightenment, it's not there. And me, what do I do now?" And so the samsara is starting to manifest also there. So she starts to feel that anyway, she still had some problem. She was not well. She had her dynamics. And there, that initially was her heaven, it starts to be not so anymore. And then she comes back to England. The job, that point, she doesn't have that. The career, it's over. The people that she was relating with took another direction, and she makes a tremendous effort to go back there, and partly she ends up blaming Buddhism. And this is because when one sets a goal for how it can be beautiful, and it kind of puts aside like a portion of time, like I need to do this in this time with this form, and then it doesn't happen. Also because the path of enlightenment is not like the something about years, it's a matter of lives. Then there is who says that it can happen in 3 years, but it's very under very specific conditions. So when we project a goal, it's important to do it. Also the most trivial goal, like what I want to eat for lunch. So I need to cook in order to eat in this way, then I need to go buy those groceries. And so goals are important, and projecting oneself in the future is fine. It's not possible to live life without absolutely projecting ourselves in the future, but without attachment, with the awareness of the impermanence. Impermanence, it is said in Tibetan, Kechik means instant, Jikpa means to transform, so transforming from instant to instant. And we live in a continuous flow of transformation. And here, if we do a sort of zoom in and we go closer, we see as if the past and the future didn't exist. There is just like a continuous flow that goes from one experience to the other, one thought to the other constantly. There isn't that clear distinction from the past moment to the future moment. The fact is that we're constantly transforming, and this transformation follows life and things that happen. The choices that we take, things that happen, follows that. We don't have control or also awareness of what happens. We have a very minimum awareness of what is happening in our lives at the moment. I don't know, let's just think about our own body. How much awareness do we really have of what is happening? Me, at least, little. Simply the fact of what I'm eating, what effect does it have on me? We don't have much awareness of this. And there are many things that if we had a clear awareness, then it wouldn't be bad, because it would actually make us change behavior. We don't have awareness of the interactions that we live in our daily life. For example, I do this, I say that, I meet that person. What results will that bring? We don't have that awareness. And so, how can I trust the future? To project myself in the future when, one, what I have today, I don't know if I will have it tomorrow, and to be more precise, it won't be there tomorrow exactly as it is now. When I use this since when I've used this example, it doesn't happen to me anymore, but sometimes people used to come to me and say, Lama, there is this thing, it's a bad situation, I can't spend my whole life like this. I don't know if you've ever had this feeling, like when there is something bad, there is this perception that one will spend his whole life like that. So I cannot spend my whole life like this. And I said sometimes, verbalizing other times, I just thought it, don't worry, your whole life won't be like that. It can get better or worse. Like that, it won't remain. If it gets better, then relax yourself. If it gets worse, then enjoy what is there. Because otherwise, because we don't know how things will go. Identical, they won't remain. We're constantly in change. And what happens with this is that when we are very attached to the version of the future, to what is our own projection, that will not allow us to live the present. Doesn't allow us to open our mind to see what is there and to enjoy what is there, to learn from what is there. And one of the tendencies is that up to a certain point of life, we live life as if it still has to happen. So we are living today, imagining towards the future, like projected in the future. Then at a certain point in life, we live life as if it has already passed, projected towards the past. Ah, look, that thing went that way. Ah, how beautiful that happened, and that person was there that now is not there anymore. But to simply allow ourselves to live what we have now, today, this is one of the effects. Not being able to do this is one of the effects of being so attached of our expectations. And one of the great gifts that we can make to ourselves is to get rid at least a little bit from this attachment. At least to understand that the majority of our suffering is not because of how things are, but because things are not how we thought they should have been. So very often also the problem is not how the other is, but that the other is not how we think that he or she should be. The same thing is for an infinity of things. And so when we get rid a little bit of this attachment, then we are able to see what is there with more clarity. So I get rid of the attachment of what you should be, and I allow myself to see who you are. Because that idealized image blocks the possibility of seeing the other aspects that are there. And making a very trivial example that I've already seen many times, one goes to the restaurant, orders something to eat, then when we ask something as at the restaurant, we have an idealized image of what will arrive, right? And then something that really doesn't have anything to do with what we expected comes. Ah, you were wrong, it's not what I asked, and so on. And I've seen people like that a dish arrives and they don't even taste it because it's not what I asked. And some other times they say, like, yeah, maybe, let's see. And then maybe it's even better than what they ordered, and so they discover something new. So when we are attached to how things should be, our idealized image, that naturally makes it so that we are not able to be present with what we are doing. We are not able to open to see other aspects of reality, of the reality in which we find ourselves. Because let's remember ourselves, our mind tries to perceive reality to sustain our narratives. In other words, to be more precise, it tries to create some narratives to sustain our projections. That is what we try to do. Constantly, we try to build some narratives, whether it's in a way that is aware or not, to sustain a coherence with what we project and with what we feel. I'm sad. Why am I sad? There must be a reason for that. And we create a narrative for that. I'm happy. There must be a reason for that. And then I create another narrative, and so on. To me, one of the things that has helped me a lot during these years is sometimes to be able to perceive, okay, I'm sad. Yes, why? I don't know. I don't project, like it would just go away. Either it goes away or the reason comes out, but at this moment I don't have clarity. And it's pointless to really force oneself to find the guilty of that.
Noi costantemente ci trasformiamo.
And so constantly we are transforming. One of the aspects of our difficulty of perceiving and accepting this is the fact that our body teaches us. Our body shows us since when we were little, our body changes. It's changing. But it's as if it was like a bit of a strange clock, because like the part that is going up, that is going towards like 21, more or less. The process of growth is until like 21. Then it is said that there is a certain stability until 25, and one starts to get old from 25 on. From the neuronal point of view, one starts to get old from 25 on. And me, I have already started from a while, and you can see it in your body. The body naturally manifests those things. One of the most clear signs of my own impermanence, for example, is hair. Every time that I see like a picture of myself from behind or from above, I say, oh look, I'm impermanent. My body gradually is transforming in every moment. Wow, I'm alive. Everything is fine. But for example, we have attachment to an idealized image of our appearance. And there exists even a strange thing of also not wanting to verbalize one's own age. 1 year more, then I'm old. What is the alternative to not getting old? Dying young? Isn't it? So, do you want to die young? No. So you get old. But I don't want to get old. Then you die young. It's not like that there is an alternative. Then there is who has this strange idea of being immortal and to regenerate cells. And there are now these things, there is who says of systems of being able to do organ transplants, you don't know how many times. There's part of this illusion of being able to be immortal in a young body and so on, when we actually are constantly changing and our body is showing us there is nothing bad or wrong in this. The problem is when we are not living the present well, and consequently we transform in a bad way. For example, if we don't use our head in a good way, with thinking, and we don't use it well, like reasoning and training it like that, then our brain gets older sooner. So we will have more memory and cognitive problems. And so for this, to take care well of the present, it's important also to transform and to get old in a good way. But there is nothing bad, nothing wrong in getting old. Absolutely nothing wrong. Things start, things transform, and things change, and it's completely fine. We project our future towards what we want to be, mostly.
È un po' come l'analogia che ho fatto tante volte. Partiamo per un viaggio in barca a vela.
So, for example, okay, we leave for a journey on a sailboat. We have an idea of where we want to go. I leave from here, I want to get there. I have an idea, I study the maps beforehand, I study the currents, the weather of those days, I know well the boat that I have. I train to face those situations, and then I leave. Look, we will meet again in 2 weeks. Me, for example, I have my own romantic idea of crossing from Europe to Brazil, and one says, yeah, okay, see you in 2 weeks. But I don't have control on the currents, I don't have control on the wind, I don't have control on the rain, or I have my own idealized image of how I think that it could go, or I think that it would better, that it will go. But wherever I go, the currents won't match exactly, also the winds and so on. And my strength is not in trying to control the conditions, but it's in the trusting to my resources and my own capacity of traveling well, sailing well. So when there is like a day there is absolutely no wind and the boat isn't moving at all, then I do some maintenance of the boat. I take advantage of that to rest. I adapt to the conditions that are there. When it's the day that there is very strong wind, for example, according to the situations that are there, I adapt myself and I know how to use those conditions, situations to go where I want to go. Maybe instead of 2 weeks, it would be 10 days, or maybe it would be 3 months, I don't know. But I adapt myself to the conditions. And, in order to have courage to go on for the future, we often base our courage on an illusory thing. That is, the certainty of how things will go. In order to not have a fear, I try to program things and to make it so that this, okay, will go like that, and that other thing will go like that. A sensation of control about the future. And the more I believe that I have control on what will happen, the more I feel safe to live towards that direction. But it's a huge illusion. The feeling of security, and so to have a courage in going beyond, and the courage that is there, it doesn't come from having control on what's there, but in the trust in our own resources to face what will come. Happens what happens, then I will face it well. Whether there will be the sun, that's fine, or rain. I brought something to cover myself from rain. I know how to do. In the worst of cases, I will get wet. I'm sweet, but I'm not made of sugar. And so in our lives, we've seen that, okay, beautiful moments are beautiful, and the bad moments often they teach us a lot. And so the more we're able to trust and base ourselves on our resources, the less difficulties we will have in projecting ourselves in the future, less anxiety we will have in imagining the future. And here there is also a necessary process in what we are talking about. There is a sort of grieving that needs to be done. Mourning. That is about giving up our idealized image of how we believe that things should have been, and there is a part of mourning, really, like, okay, it didn't go like that, it's fine, but it went well on many other aspects. And one of the things that it has always helped me in these things is the fact of seeing that the pretense that things should be exactly how I have projected them, it's a tremendous arrogance. Because I don't have the actual means to forecast. So who am I to say this should have gone like that, that should have gone in another way? What I have is my experience, my reasoning, my expectations, my illusions, my mental defilements, and the whole thing together, saying, okay, yes, I hope that that will go like that, and maybe goes in that other way. And if you ask me, in my life, things don't go as I expected, I can tell practically always. There is always something wrong, from the small things to really big things. And when they are important things, even there are situations, and this is crazy, we create a projection of how it should go, and then at a certain point we see that something is different and that there is a possibility that still hasn't happened, and one changes the perspective of the future. It won't go as I want, and one, but it still hasn't happened, and one starts really to suffer and to live the consequences of what hasn't already happened. I don't know if this is clear. Then we believe to be sane mentally. So let's relax a little. We are open to receiving what will come and to face it in the best way, knowing, being able to catch the best of what is there. And this matters a lot on the way how we pose ourselves towards what happens. And when our priorities are internal, both our, that is, how my inner development state is priority, and also yours, other than what is happening. I try to live the various situations in order to nourish that aspect. And so, whatever happens, I won't drop my patience. Whatever happens, I will not let myself be taken by hatred or to lose my sane principles. And when we give an internal direction that is clear and secure, that is one of the main points to help us to live the various situations. But I repeat, in life there are and there will always be situations that we don't expect. Me, in these few years of life, I've seen things that now I won't list, but like situations that I would have never expected that could have happened. And they happen. Luckily, not every day, but sometimes they do, and there is something that you say, wow, both in the good and in the bad way. And the most interesting thing is that when we look backwards, we see that many things that we thought that would have gone in a certain direction actually also brought something, another direction. So when we look at our lives, when we think about what is happening, it's like that children game of like a drawing of uniting the dots, where you have the numbers and the points and one has to unite them. But let's imagine of doing that drawing where we ourselves are in the tip of the pencil, and the only thing that we can see is walking from one point to the other. We're not even able to look at the point from which we started. We can also just see like the previous point and then the next point. Then at a certain point, if we detach ourselves and see ourselves from far away, we can see the drawing that was created. We ourselves in the present moment really don't have the minimum idea of where we are going, what is happening, where that will bring, and what if that happened differently, what would have happened. We have no way of knowing it. And so the conclusion, we relax. We live at our best what we have. Suffering, unfortunately, is part of life, so as long as there is jealousy, hatred, and so on, it's part of life. But it's possible to gradually be better and better and to live life in a more and more significant way and to face difficulties and grow in front of them without shadow of doubt. It's possible to get to the end of this life as a better person than the one who started. yet, and this already means a lot. And so we go on like this, with trust, also with a joy. The beautiful thing is that when we are less attached to the idealized image, we also allow ourselves to enjoy the little things, the little moments that are there, that are fundamental in life. So I invite you to reflect on the past, the present, the future, and to see that partly things are simple, but we complicate them. And the majority of our suffering is not for how things are, but for how we think that things should be. And so, the least attachment we have to these things, then the better it goes. There are situations that are difficult, that then also bring some positive consequences with time. There are difficult situations that appear really difficult and then they bring wonderful results. Things that appear as beautiful but then bring really bad results. But there is always what is positive and negative. I'm not saying that everything, we look at that and say, ah no, you don't judge anything, you don't know what it is. No, it's not exactly like that. Positive is what in its interaction brings to a state of well-being and happiness. Negative is what in its interaction brings a state of suffering. Violence is negative. Just to put clarity on this, love is something positive because love in its true sense brings well-being. Violence brings suffering, and so there is an aspect of positive, negative. The situations that we live in life, we don't exactly know in the long run what they will bring. They will bring good things and bad things, but it also depends on how we live them. To make an example, before concluding, this last trip to Mongolia, at a certain point during this trip, the bus stops at night in the middle of the mud. It was quite cold. There was a lot of mud on the ground. We would have had to walk more or less like 22 kilometers. It was totally dark in a place where no one of us know anything about. It could have been a tragedy. Could have been, here, look, no one thought about it well. It was organized in such a bad way. If someone asked me, but did you know that this could have happened? The answer would be, unfortunately, yes. And so what do we do now? Okay, yeah, we walk. And the interesting thing is that one experience that could have gone very badly actually went very, very good. I don't know in the mind of everyone, but looking around, it was a very good experience, pleasant, where we also say to ourselves, at the worst, we sleep in the bus, and will someone feel so bad about sleeping one night in the bus? No, so it's fine, and the attitude changes, and the majority of us, I say the majority because I'm not in the mind of everyone, has a good memory of what happened. I have a wonderful memory of that moment. But not because of what happened, but because of the way that it was lived, that transformed what happened. And so, this is a power that we have in our lives in every moment. And I repeat once again, the less attachment we have to how we think that things should be, maintaining a direction that is clear, the better we will feel. And the clear direction is a direction that is mostly based on values, principles, on an inner path of growth, not on how specifically the things that don't depend on myself will have to go. Using the words of Epiteto, the goal that we set to ourselves is what depends on us. The things to which we are not, things to which we are attached don't depend on us. So what is internal, the way we transform, the goals that we set to ourselves depends on ourselves. So we have to set a really clear goal and follow it. How the others behave, what happens, whether it rains or sun, or there is sun, what happens with geopolitics, and all of that doesn't depend on me, and so I don't have an idealized image and attachment to how it should be. I will adapt as the situations will manifest, but I maintain my own clear direction. Now we make our dedications.
Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar tinle chokchur gepa dang losan tempe drome sasum ge drowe munsel takto ne gyur chi kewa kuntu yanda lama dang drame chiki pela longche chi sadan lamge yente rapzo ne dorje change kopa Nyurtov sho nimo dele tsendele nime kunyan delek nitse taktu delek pe kuncho sumke chingi lob kuncho sumke ngodrubutsol trashi shon al alba
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and to sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
Tishdile, buona giornata.